Looking back, I can pinpoint the exact moment I knew I'd have to reveal my secret. It was when my mother-in-law Margaret handed me a staff access card at my own son's wedding and said, "Darling, we think it's best if you use the service entrance in the back. The front is for, well, you understand." Her perfect Connecticut smile never wavered as she patted my shoulder, the diamond tennis bracelet catching the light. She had no idea that I owned not just the venue, but the entire Kensington Hotels Group, the company that had been paying her husband's executive salary for the past 3 years. I'd built my empire in silence, allowing my in-laws to believe I was just that girl from the wrong side of Bridgeport who got lucky marrying their son. But that day, watching them parade me through the kitchen while greeting guests at the front door, something inside me snapped. Sometimes respect isn't given, it's taken. And I was about to take mine back in a way that would change our family dynamic forever. I met James Kensington at a charity fundraiser where I was catering, not as a guest, as the person serving many quiches. I'd built a small but successful catering business after putting myself through community college. James was different from his family. Kind, unpretentious, and genuinely interested in my story of growing up with a single mom in Bridgeport's struggling East Side. The Kensingtons were Connecticut old money, not billionaires, but the kind of wealthy that came with membership to the right country clubs and vacations in Nantucket. Margaret, my mother-in-law, was a former debutante who chaired 3 charity boards and had never worked a day in her life. William, my father-in-law, was the CFO of Hartwick Industries, always impeccably dressed in custom suits and subtly name-dropping his Harvard connections. From day one, Margaret made it clear I wasn't what she'd envisioned for her son. At our first dinner at their Greenwich estate, she helpfully corrected my table manners. "Darling, at formal dinners, we wait for the hostess to begin," she whispered after I'd picked up my fork too early. "But I'm sure they don't teach that in Bridgeport public schools." Her smile never reached her eyes. When James proposed after 8 months, Margaret's campaign escalated. During a bridal luncheon she hosted, because I simply must, it's tradition, she introduced me to her friends as James's fiancé from, what was that catering company again, dear? Later, I overheard her in the kitchen. "She's trying, bless her heart, but you can't make silk from polyester." What the Kensingtons didn't know was that by then I'd already sold my catering business for a surprising profit to a restaurant group. I'd been quietly investing in small, struggling hotels, renovating them, making them profitable, and expanding. I operated through holding companies and managers, keeping my name off public documents, not out of shame, but because I enjoyed the freedom of anonymity. The opportunity came 3 years ago, when Kensington Hotels Group, no relation to my in-laws despite the name, was struggling. I saw potential where others saw failure. Working with my most trusted advisor, Sam Chen, we orchestrated a private buyout. I became the majority owner and chairperson, though only the board and my executive team knew my identity. In a twist of corporate irony, Hartwick Industries, where my father-in-law worked, was struggling. When Kensington Hotels needed a new CFO, I reviewed William's resume personally. He was qualified, and I approved his hiring through 3 layers of management, so he never knew. For 3 years, I'd been his boss, watching him brag about turning around that hotel chain at family gatherings. Throughout all this, James knew everything. We had no secrets between us. "Why not tell them?" he'd ask sometimes. But I always said the same thing. They need to see me, not my money, before anything changes. So we waited watching Margaret organize family events where I was seated at the secondary table or accidentally not included in family photos, until our son Connor's wedding day, when everything changed. Connor's wedding was supposed to be simple. He and his fiancée, Alyssa, wanted something elegant but intimate. But Margaret had other ideas. A Kensington wedding must be an event, she declared, somehow taking over despite it being our son's day. The Sapphire Ballroom at the Hamilton, the flagship of Kensington hotels, was Margaret's choice. "William can pull strings," she announced at dinner months before. "They'll give us the family discount." James squeezed my hand under the table as I nodded politely, knowing I could have given them the entire hotel for free. 2 days before the wedding, I visited the Hamilton to finalize some details, as the owner, not the mother of the groom. The general manager, Diana, greeted me in my private office. "Mrs. Reynolds, we have a situation. Your mother-in-law has requested some unusual seating arrangements." Diana showed me the chart. Margaret had created a clear division. Kensingtons and their friends at the prime tables, my side of the family relegated to the back near the kitchen doors. My mother, who had worked 2 jobs to raise me alone, was seated at a table with hotel staff who were working the event. "She said she's handling all family matters," Diana explained uncomfortably. "Since Mr. Kensington Sr. is technically an executive here." "Don't worry," I assured her. "Just follow along for now." The morning of the wedding, I arrived early with my mother and my sister Tina. Margaret had insisted the real family should arrive through the grand entrance, while we could use the service elevator to avoid confusion. Tina was furious, but I calmed her down. "Trust me," I whispered. "Today is about Connor and Alyssa." As we entered through the kitchen, Sam Chen, my COO and trusted friend, approached me discreetly. "Mrs. Reynolds, we have a situation," he murmured. "Your father-in-law has been telling the staff to rearrange things and demanding complimentary champagne upgrades. He's throwing your son's name around, but also mentioning his position as CFO. He told the banquet manager, and I quote, 'Do you know who signs your checks?'" I felt a familiar tightness in my chest. "What did you tell him?" "That I'd need to check with ownership," Sam smiled slightly. "He didn't like that. Then your mother-in-law arrived and requested that your family members wear these." He handed me staff access badges. "To streamline security," she said. Just then, Margaret swept into the kitchen in her designer suit, diamonds glittering. "Oh, there you are. I've been looking everywhere," she said, though she'd clearly known exactly where we'd be. "Now I've sorted everything out. These are for you and your people." She handed me the badge I'd already seen from Sam. "The ceremony starts in an hour, and the kitchen staff said they'd find space for your mother to freshen up." I took the badge, feeling something shift inside me. For years, I'd tolerated her subtle humiliations for James's sake, for family peace. But this was my son's wedding, at my hotel. "Is there a problem?" Margaret asked, noting my hesitation. "Not yet," I replied quietly. As guests arrived, I watched from a service corridor as William greeted people at the main entrance alongside Margaret, acting every bit the hosts. My mother sat quietly in a corner of the kitchen, her carefully chosen dress, which had cost her a month's pension, wrinkling as kitchen staff worked around her. "Mom," I said, making a decision, "I think it's time." She looked up at me, understanding immediately. "Are you sure, honey? Today is Connor's day." "That's exactly why I'm sure. This day isn't about the Kensingtons. It's about our family, all of us." I texted Sam and Diana, "Executive Protocol 7, now." The ceremony was beautiful despite everything. Connor and Alyssa exchanged vows under an arch of white roses, their love obvious to everyone. During the procession out, Margaret somehow maneuvered things so that she and William walked directly behind the newlyweds, while James and I were several rows back with my family. At the reception, I watched William approach the hotel manager in the corner, gesturing emphatically about something that clearly displeased him. The manager nodded repeatedly, looking uncomfortable, until Sam Chen approached them. Sam handed William a note, which he read with a frown before looking around the room. His eyes found me. I nodded slightly, and he blanched. The moment came during the speeches. William had appointed himself Master of Ceremonies, something neither Connor nor Alyssa had requested. After his own lengthy toast praising the union of the Kensington legacy with Alyssa's wonderful family, he announced, "And now a few words from Connor's mother, who I believe has a small toast prepared." The microphone handoff was deliberate. He held it at an awkward angle, forcing me to stand up and walk across the room rather than passing it along the table. A small humiliation, but one of many that day. I took the microphone and smoothed my dress, not a designer label, but one I'd chosen carefully. The room quieted. "Thank you, William," I began. "Before I toast Connor and Alyssa, I want to take a moment to welcome everyone to the Hamilton. This hotel has special significance to our family, though not everyone knows why." Margaret was already whispering to someone, barely paying attention. William was checking his phone. 6 years ago, I made my first major business acquisition, a struggling hotel in Providence. 3 years ago, I purchased the Kensington Hotels Group, including this flagship location where we celebrate today. The room went silent. William's head snapped up from his phone. "I've kept my ownership private, working through management teams who report directly to me as chairperson and majority owner. Some of you may have interacted with my company without realizing it." I looked directly at William. "Some of you may even work for me." Margaret's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. I never corrected assumptions about my background because I believed family relationships should be based on more than financial status. I believed respect was earned through character, not net worth. I turned to where my mother sat at the back table. I learned that from my mother, who worked 2 jobs to raise me and taught me my worth isn't determined by others. The silence in the room was deafening. Today, I watched my mother directed to enter through the service door of a hotel I own. My voice remained steady. I was given a staff badge at my son's wedding, in my own establishment. I reached into my clutch and pulled out the badge, holding it up. This badge represents a choice I made to remain silent about who I am. Today, I'm making a different choice. I looked at Connor and Alyssa. "I apologize for this moment of clarity happening on your day, but I want your marriage to begin with truth, not pretense." Margaret was now standing, her face ashen. William looked like he might be sick. "To Connor and Alyssa," I raised my glass. "May your partnership be built on mutual respect, honesty, and the understanding that true value comes from character, not circumstance. I love you both." I handed the microphone to Connor, who was grinning widely, and walked toward the exit. As I passed William, I paused. "There's an executive meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. I expect all senior leadership to attend." As I reached the door, I heard Margaret's shrill voice, "Lisa! Lisa, wait!" But for once, I didn't turn around when she called. I spent that night in the presidential suite of the Hamilton, a room that was technically mine, though I'd never stayed in it before. James joined me after making sure Connor and Alyssa were settled. He held me as I finally released years of pent-up emotions. "You were magnificent," he whispered. "I've waited so long to see you claim your power." The next morning, I woke to dozens of texts. "Connor, "Mom, you're a legend." Alyssa can't stop talking about it. My sister Tina, "About damn time." And surprisingly, one from my father-in-law, "We need to talk, please." The executive meeting was set for the main conference room. I arrived early, dressed in a tailored suit I normally reserved for board meetings. Diana and Sam were already there, reviewing documents. "The full financial disclosure you requested," Sam said, handing me a folder, "and the performance reviews for the executive team." William arrived exactly at 9, alone. He looked like he hadn't slept, his usually immaculate appearance slightly disheveled. He stopped short when he saw me sitting at the head of the table. "Please, sit," I gestured to a chair. He sat stiffly, placing his portfolio on the table. "I've prepared my resignation." "I haven't asked for it," I replied. He looked up, confused. "But after yesterday—" "After how we've treated you all these years." "This isn't about yesterday, William. This is about your performance as CFO." I opened the folder Sam had given me. "Your work has been exemplary. The Northeastern properties have shown a 22% increase in profitability under your financial guidance. Your restructuring of our debt saved us millions in interest." I closed the folder. "I didn't hire you because you're my father-in-law. I hired you because your resume showed you were the best person for the job. That hasn't changed." He stared at me, speechless. "What has changed is our personal relationship. I won't be treated as less than in my family or my company. Not anymore." After a moment, he nodded slowly. "I understand." "Do you?" I asked. "Because Margaret may not." "Margaret," he sighed heavily. "Margaret is struggling. She called her friends all night, trying to determine how she didn't know, how everyone kept this from her." "Not everyone knew," I corrected him. "James knew. Connor knew. A select few executives knew. It wasn't a conspiracy, William. It was a boundary." The conversation with Margaret came later that week. She requested lunch at her country club, neutral territory. When I arrived, she was already seated, looking smaller somehow, less certain. "I spoke with William's colleagues," she said, after the waiter took our orders. "Apparently, you're quite respected in the industry." I waited, saying nothing. "I've been thinking about the first time you came to dinner," she continued. "I was so focused on where you came from that I never asked where you were going." She twisted her napkin. "That was a mistake." "Yes," I agreed. "It was." "I don't know how to do this," she admitted. "How to start over." "We don't start over," I told her. "We start from here, with truth." Over the following months, things shifted gradually. William and I developed a genuine professional rapport that slowly extended to our personal relationship. He started asking my advice about investments, acknowledging my expertise. Margaret was more complicated. Old habits died hard, but there were moments of genuine effort. When my mother's 70th birthday approached, it was Margaret who suggested hosting it at the Hamilton, properly, through the front door this time. The most surprising development came 6 months after the wedding. Connor and Alyssa announced they were expecting. At the family dinners celebrating the news, Margaret pulled me aside. "I've been thinking," she said hesitantly, "the baby will need a nursery at our house for visits. I wondered if you might help design it. You have excellent taste, better than mine, though I was too proud to see it." It wasn't an apology exactly, but it was an acknowledgement, a beginning. James found me on the terrace later, watching the sunset over Greenwich Sound. "Penny for your thoughts?" "I was thinking about my mom," I said, "how she taught me that dignity isn't what other people give you, it's what you claim for yourself." He wrapped his arms around me. "Connor told me something interesting today. He said revealing your secret at the wedding was the best gift he could have given him and Alyssa." How so? He said it showed them that pretending to be something you're not, just to please others, is a recipe for unhappiness, that authenticity matters more than approval. I thought about that as I watched Margaret inside, showing my mother photos on her phone, probably grandchild nursery ideas. Two women from different worlds finding common ground in the future. The company continued to thrive. I stepped more visibly into my role as chairperson, no longer hidden behind layers of management. At the next board meeting, I proposed a new initiative, a scholarship program for promising business students from underserved communities like Bridgeport. We named it after my mother. And the staff badges from the wedding, I had them framed. They hang in my office as a reminder that sometimes the most powerful response to disrespect isn't revenge, it's simply revealing your truth. Looking back now, with our grandchild about to turn 1 and the family dynamics forever changed, I realize my journey wasn't really about wealth or status. It was about claiming my rightful place, not just at the table, but in my own narrative. We all face moments when others try to define our worth based on where we started rather than who we are. In those moments, remember, your value isn't determined by someone else's perception. Your story is yours to write. If my experience resonated with you, hit subscribe and share your own story of reclaiming your power in the comments below. Remember, sometimes the back door leads to the head of the table if you're brave enough to walk through it.